Good day and God bless. Welcome to And It Came to Pass. I am Dana. I have been a so-called truther for almost 2 decades, and I didn't come back to Christ until about 6 years ago. And really, I don't even know if I would say that, because the first 2 years or so, I wasn't looking. I wasn't searching him out. I just kind of came to the realization that there is a God, and I carried on with my truther life, living in pleasure, all that stuff. It wasn't until, about a year ago that I really started studying. I was watching Bible studies and stuff for a couple of years before that. But to actually study the Bible, I didn't really start doing that until about a year ago. And studying hard for about 7 months or so now. So it's not like I'm a scholar or anything, and if you follow me, you know that, right? I'm not necessarily going to be right about everything. I hope I am, because we're all going to have to face God on Judgment Day. And I'm not looking forward to that. That should scare you. However, within that truther circle, I've always seen in the comment section how the Jews are to blame for everything, and hate the Jews, and it's just all negative stuff, and it's all lumped in, whether it's Zionism or Israelites or Jews. It's all Jews, and I'm not convinced that that's a real thing. From what I understand in the Bible, from what I've read, this is just going from what I understand right now. I believe there is a difference between an Israelite and a Jew. And I'd like to point that out to you and see if you agree. Maybe you won't. But this is what I get from it. I do believe there is a difference between everything I've just mentioned. So let me know what you think. So we'll start in Genesis chapter 32, verses 24 to 32. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of that place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. And over here in Genesis chapter 35, verses 9 to 11, And God appeared unto Jacob again, and when he came out of Padanaram, he blessed him. And God said unto him, Thy name is Jacob, thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. And God said unto him, I am God Almighty, be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. So Jacob had 12 boys, and they became what are called the 12 tribes of Israel. And they can be found in Genesis chapter 49, verses 1 to 28. And they are Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Zebulun, Issachar, Dan, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Joseph, and Benjamin. And we can get a brief synopsis of that on Britannica. 12 tribes of Israel. In the Bible, the Hebrew people who, after the death of Moses, took possession of the promised land of Canaan under the leadership of Joshua. Because the tribes were named after sons and grandsons of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel after he wrestled an angel of the Lord, the Hebrew people became known as Israelites. Now let's look at the definitions. Here in the Blue Letter Bible, the Hebrew for Strong's is H3481 for Israelite. And there we find, God prevails, a descendant or inhabitant of the nation of Israel. Israel, given by God to Jacob the patriarch, but used more frequently of his descendants. And in the Greek, it is G2475 for Israelite. And there we see an Israelite, one of the nation of Israel, a name to be held in honor. And again we see one of the race of Israel, a name to be held in honor. And Jew, for Strong's, in the Hebrew, is 3064. And there we find Judite, or descendant of Judah, one who belonged to the kingdom of Judah. In the later Hebrew, after the carrying away of the 10 tribes, it was applied to any Israelite. So as I went through Jeremiah, I couldn't find anything that I thought backed this statement up. Maybe you found something different? If you have, please let me know. I found 3 verses that maybe, and I stress the word maybe, could possibly allude to this, but I don't think so. Here they are. Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 18. In those days the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers. Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 27. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast. In Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 31. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Now maybe you see something there that I don't. If you do, let me know in the comments section. Just like I said, if you know of something in there that I've missed, please let me know, because I don't want to miss anything. Having said that, if they were truly brought together and all called Jews now, what would be the point in highlighting a verse like this? Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. And one of the elders saith unto me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book, and to loose the 7 seals thereof. So now let's look at the Greek for Jew, and it is Strong's G2453. There we find Jewish, belonging to the Jewish nation, Jewish as respects to birth, origin, religion. From Judean, belonging to Judah, of Judea. So we've now looked at the difference between an Israelite and a Jew. But there's one other term we need to look at. Zionism, Jewish nationalist movement that has had as its goal the creation and support of a Jewish national state in Palestine, the ancient homeland of the Jews. Though Zionism originated in Eastern and Central Europe in the latter part of the 19th century, it is in many ways a continuation of the ancient attachment of the Jews and of the Jewish religion to the historical region of Palestine, where one of the hills of ancient Jerusalem was called Zion. In the 16th and 17th centuries, a number of messiahs came forward trying to persuade Jews to return to Palestine. The Haskalah movement of the late 18th century, however, urged Jews to assimilate into Western secular culture. In the early 19th century, interest in a return of the Jews to Palestine was kept alive mostly by Christian millenarians. Despite the Haskalah, Eastern European Jews did not assimilate and, in reaction to Tsarist pogroms, formed the Hovevei Zion to promote the settlement of Jewish farmers and artisans in Palestine. A political turn was given to Zionism by Theodor Herzl, an Austrian journalist who regarded assimilation as the most desirable, but, in view of anti-Semitism, impossible to realize. Thus he argued, if Jews were forced by external pressure to form a nation, they could lead a normal existence only through concentration in one territory. In 1897, Herzl convened the first Zionist Congress at Basel, Switzerland, which drew up the Basel program of the movement, stating that Zionism strives to create for Jewish people a home in Palestine secured by public law. At the death of Herzl in 1904, the leadership moved from Vienna to Cologne and then to Berlin. Prior to World War I, Zionism represented only a minority of Jews, mostly from Russia, but led by Austrians and Germans. It developed propaganda through orators, and pamphlets, created its own newspapers, and gave an impetus to what was called a Jewish Renaissance in letters and arts. The development of modern Hebrew language largely took place during that period. Upon the outbreak of World War I, political Zionism reasserted itself, and its leadership passed to Russian Jews living in England. Two such Zionists, Chaim Weizmann and Nahum Sokolov, were instrumental in obtaining the Balfour Declaration from Great Britain, which promised British support for the creation of a Jewish national home in Palestine. The declaration was included in Britain's League of Nations mandate over Palestine in 1922. Well, now we're going to have a brief look at the Balfour Declaration. But before we move on to that, I just want to draw your attention to one more thing that will be relevant later on. Right here, the flag of the Zionist movement, adopted in 1891, became the flag of the State of Israel, established in 1948. Balfour Declaration, November 2nd, 1917. Statement of British support for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. It was made in a letter from Arthur James Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, to Lionel Walter Rothschild, 2nd Baron Rothschild, a leader of the Anglo-Jewish community. Though the precise meaning of the correspondence has been disputed, its statements were generally contradictory to both the Sykes-Picot Agreement, a secret convention between Britain and France, and the Hussein McMahon correspondence, an exchange of letters between the British High Commissioner in Egypt, Sir Henry McMahon, and Hussein ibn Ali, then Emir of Mecca, which in turn contradicted one another. The Balfour Declaration, issued through the continued efforts of Chaim Weizmann and Nahum Sokolov, Zionist leaders in London, fell short of the expectations of the Zionists, who had asked for the reconstitution of Palestine as a Jewish national home. The declaration specifically stipulated that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. The document, however, said nothing of the political or national rights of these communities and did not refer to them by name. Nevertheless, the declaration aroused enthusiastic hopes among Zionists and seemed the fulfillment of the aims of the World Zionist Organization. The Balfour Declaration was endorsed by the principal Allied powers and was included in the British Mandate over Palestine, formally approved by the newly created League of Nations on July 24, 1922. In May 1939, the British government altered its policies in a white paper recommending a limit of 75,000 further immigrants and an end to immigration by 1944. Unless the resident Palestinian Arabs of the region consented to further immigration. Zionists condemned the new policy, accusing Britain of favoring the Arabs. This point was made moot by the outbreak of World War II, 1939-45, and the founding of the State of Israel in 1948. And if you'd like a deeper dive on that, well, I recommend Russia Today and the article they put out back on August 31st, 2022. This is something that only Russian Jews can do, how modern Zionism was created 125 years ago. Now for a quick aside, kind of, we hear a lot over the past, number of years for sure, but recently, the past few years, heavily, this term, anti-Semitic, and in my opinion, it is used to shut down conversation before it ever gets started. But to find out what that means, we're going to have to find out what Semitic means first, right? Seems logical, no? So Semite, a name given in the 19th century to a member of any people who speak one of the Semitic languages, a family of languages spoken primarily in parts of Western Asia and Africa. The term therefore came to include Arabs, Akkadians, Canaanites, Hebrews, some Ethiopians, and Armenian tribes, although Mesopotamia, the western coast of the Mediterranean, and Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa have all been proposed as possible sites for the prehistoric origins of Semitic-speaking populations. There remains no archaeological or scientific evidence of a common Semitic people, because Semitic-speaking peoples do not share any traits aside from language. Use of the term Semite to refer to a broad range of Semitic-speaking peoples has fallen out of favor. Semite is a noun, a member of any number of peoples of ancient southwestern Asia, including the Akkadians, Phoenicians, Hebrews, and Arabs. A descendant of these peoples, a member of a modern people speaking a Semitic language. Okay, it seems pretty straightforward, right? So logic and common sense would dictate that anti-Semitic would be anybody anti these people. Correct? Well, anti-Semitism, hostility toward or discrimination against Jews as a religious or radical group. The term anti-Semitism was coined in 1879. Interesting. Anti-Semitism from Wikipedia. A total or partial opposition to Judaism as a religion and Jews as a religious group. Anti-Semitism is hostility or prejudice towards or discrimination against Jews. A person who holds such positions is called an anti-Semite. Anti-Semitism is considered to be a form of racism. So how did we get from this to this? Where is the in-between step that I somehow missed? This that you're looking at right here is a term to shut down conversation. I'd also call your attention to that star we're looking at right there. That is a very relevant symbol. So now that we've looked at the differences between an Israelite and a Jew and a Zionist, who do you think is occupying the land currently known as either the State of Israel or Palestine? Well, this is just my opinion, but I think the flag you're looking at right now may give us some clues. The star seems to be quite relevant, no? So if we jump over to Amos, chapter 5, verse 26, we can read, "But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch, and Chine your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves." And in Acts, chapter 7, verse 43, "Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch, and the star of your God, Remphan, figures which ye made to worship them, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon." Does that star look familiar to anybody? I'm sure a lot of people, this is nothing new. But there might be some people out there who this is brand new to. Now, having brought this to your attention, I am not saying by any means that you should hate anybody over there. God will be the final judge. Just my opinion. But I don't think these are the Israelites or the Jews. I think these are the Zionists. I think these are the ones talked about in Amos and in Acts. And I think that is a more accurate representation of their flag. So what do you think? Am I onto something there? Or is it all just lumped together? I'll be honest with you. It took me a long time to not hate the people over there with what they're doing to the Palestinians. It wasn't until I really started diving into the Bible that I realized it's not my job to judge them, and I'm not supposed to hate them. I don't have to like what's happening over there, and I don't have to choose sides. What we do have to do, though, is love our neighbor as thyself. So I'd like to leave you with that. And until next time, have a great day, and God bless. And Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.